Hey guys, welcome back to Dominate Fishing. I'm Dan Meyer, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about fishing jigging wraps for fall crappies. Now, jigging wraps are probably my favorite lure for catching fall crappies. It's a really fun lure to use to catch them, and the crappies love them. They go crazy. It's really easy to catch crappie on jigging wraps in the fall. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to fish them, when to fish them, my favorite sizes, and we're going to talk about some color options. So just starting out, when to fish jigging wraps in the fall, I like to use them anytime that I can fish vertical. Now a lot of times, you know, in the fall, the crappies, most of them, they move out into deeper water in a variety of different depths, and it really sets itself up really well to get over the top of those fish, get over the tops of the schools of those fish, and vertical jig them. And the depth can really vary. Like, it's still pretty warm right here right now. The water temp was 62 yesterday. I was out on the water. I was fishing jigging wraps. I looked deep. They weren't there. I moved up onto a shallow area. It was 12 feet deep, and that's where those crappies were. And I was catching them vertical jigging those jigging wraps even in that shallower water. You know, the water was a little stained, and I could still get right over the top of them. So they still work good in the shallow water, but where they really excel is, you know, 15, 17, 8 feet, 18 feet deep or deeper, especially deeper. When you get into the, you know, the crappie down in that 25 feet, the jigging wraps really work well because they're heavy. They get down there and they trigger the strike. Now when you're fishing a jigging wrap, you're fishing a reaction bite. You're not holding that bait there. You're snapping it, which is causing that bait to shoot in different directions, and you're triggering that reaction bite. So in a second, I'm going to show you what the lure looks like in the water. Alright guys, I'm going to show you really quick what this lure looks like in the water when we talk about the reaction bite. There is the lure right there, and you can see when I jig it, it snaps up and shoots in all different directions. It's never the same direction, it's all over the place. And every time it falls, oh look at that. While I'm sitting here showing you, I got fish coming up and hitting this sucker. But it always drops back to the same point where it started. So you snap it, oh I snapped it a little hard there. You snap it, it pops up, drops back. You snap it, it pops up, drops back. And that's what triggers the strike. It's moving so quick, the fish, they see it and they want to just come up and hit it. Now sometimes when that water gets a little lower, I'm gonna snap it like this to get the, you know, to attract the fish in. And then what I'm gonna do is when I'm holding it there, I'm just gonna shake it a little bit. Just kind of, I'm gonna get a little closer to the surface. Bounce it just a little bit. That's gonna let any of the fish that are just staring at it have a chance. If I don't get a hit, I'm gonna go back to just popping it, letting it jump up, popping it. I got a school of bluegills here by the dock. I'm just gonna snap that sucker, and that's what's gonna get the strike. Alright, so when I'm snapping this bait, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna snap my rod tip up. So my rod tip maybe goes up somewhere between 1.5 feet and maybe 3 feet on average. That's gonna be my main snapping motion. Because with crappies, they're sight feeders. They like to get up on that bait and look at it. And with the jigging wrap, we're not giving them too much time to look at it. But we don't want like a 7-foot rip where that thing just disappears out of their sight and then it comes back and, you know, disappears. We want it, they're going to be able to see it most of the time, jumping all over, and then when it comes back, they're going to come up and smoke it. That's kind of what we're going for. So, you know, you can experiment around, see what the fish want on any given day, but most of the time I'm going to, you know, rip that sucker 2-3 feet up, 1.5 to 3.5 feet, somewhere in that range. Pause it, and then just keep repeating. And you can kind of, on any given day, you can vary how long the pause on the bottom is just to see what the fish like. Alright, so let's talk about the rods that I'm going to use. I prefer to use a I like a 7-foot rod. So I either use a 7-foot medium light power rod or a 7-foot medium power rod. I like to use the medium light, but the medium works well too, especially if you're using a little bit bigger jigging wrap. And I also prefer monofilament line So what I like the stretch of the medium light powered rod, and I also like the stretch of the monofilament. So when I set that hook, I have a little forgiveness. I don't rip that bait right out of the fish's mouth. If you're using, you know, a long rod with braid, which has no stretch, and a stiff rod, you know, even a medium or heavier than a medium, when you set that hook, if you set it hard, a lot of times you can rip that bait right out of the crappie's mouth. So I like to use my medium light. That's just, you know, my preference, with some monofilament line. This is 8-pound. On my other rod I have 6-pound. So that way when I set that hook, I've got a little forgiveness. I don't just rip it right out of the fish's mouth. Then one thing to keep in mind when you're fishing with jigging wraps, and I talk about this a lot, you need to have that barrel swivel tied on, because with all that erratic motion, it's going to put line twists in your line. So you want the barrel swivel and then a leader line. This one I've got probably 2 feet, 2.5 feet, but you really only need 1.5 feet, a foot. You just need enough of a leader line to prevent those line twists. Now, what I did the other day is I wanted to experiment with some different jigging wrap colors. So I tried just using a swivel, because the swivel, it has the barrel swivel, but then the snap on it, and I wanted to try different colors. So on that day, having that swivel on there didn't affect the bite. Now some days it might, but I wanted to try with the snap so I could quickly change baits, and it worked just fine tying directly to a swivel. Otherwise, what you would do is you would tie the jigging wrap directly to the line like that. The knot goes right to the top of the jigging wrap. But I wanted to switch baits quick, so I wanted to see if they would care about the swivel, and they didn't. So let's talk about size now. What size jigging wraps? There's 2 main sizes I like to use in the fall. I like to use the number 3, which is this one. The number 3 is 1.5 inches. That's how long the lure is. The other lure I like to use is the number 5, which is a 2-inch. First of all, I like to go with the biggest one I can go with. I just, you know, bigger bait, bigger fish. It's kind of, you know, it's not always true. On this number 5, I've caught some absolutely tiny crappies, but I'm hoping to kind of sort through some of the small ones by using the bigger jigging wraps. You still get small ones. But so I like to use the biggest bait I can get away with. Also, a lot of times walleyes are in the same spot, so I can pick up a bonus walleye. But a big reason the number 5 is nice is a lot of times you're going to be fishing, you know, 25 feet of water, deeper, 25, 30 feet of water. It gets down there really quick, and it's got some weight to help it keep it vertical. Now, you don't need it absolutely vertical to make it have a good action, but sometimes it's nice to have it just right under the boat, you know, right where your bait is, because you're either going to be wind drifting to stay over the top of these schools, or you're going to be using your electric motor at times, and whenever that boat moves, it kind of lifts up your bait and pushes it at a bigger angle. The heavier the bait, the easier it is to keep it vertical. So I like the number 5, but I also like the number 3. So I'm going to see what the fish want. If they're aggressive, no trouble catching them on the number 5, which is the 2-inch. If I know there's fish down there, I'm marking them on my locator, they're not hitting the 5, then I'm going to try to hit them with the number 3, which is a hair smaller. That's the 1.5 inches. Ice fishing, I use the number 2, which is 1.25 inches. I don't use that much in the fall because they hit the 5 and the 3 really well, and like I said, they're heavier baits. So I'm going to go with the number 5 or the number 3 pretty much all fall long. When we're talking about colors for these jigging wraps, I like to experiment with a lot of colors. I catch fish really well on a lot of different colors. Let me just show you here some of my favorite colors. So here is the white and chartreuse. I really like that one, so I stocked up on some more of those. But you know, it depends on the lake. Here's this one's got green. Here's, you know, a perch colored one. I like the perch. Here's UV. UV works well. Another one of my favorite colors here. So that one yellow chartreuse I showed you, that was in a number 3. Here it is in a number 2. That one, like I said, though, I probably won't use till ice fishing. I might use it like right before the ice freezes up. If the fish get a little slower, I might use the number 2, but usually the number 2 is an ice fishing one. But we're just talking colors right now. Here's a clown. That's got the yellow. It's got some chrome on it. Crown is a good one. That's in number 3. Those are some bigger ones there. Here's this chrome blue. I really like the chrome blue. This is obviously number 5. I like the ones with purple in them. So with colors, the color a lot of times is not quite as important. Now, some days, some lakes, there's going to be a definite preference to a certain color. Already this year we've had a lot of those days where they key in on one color, and then there'll be some days they just want the action or the size. So, you know, experiment with colors. That's why I had the snap on that one, because I was just trying a bunch of different colors. And you're gonna find that one lake or like one area, you know, and all the lakes in the area, they respond to one color better than the other, just because, you know, that's the main forage in the lake is that color or whatever. So just experiment with the different colors and see which works best for you. But I like the bright ones, chartreuse, white, and I like blue, and the chrome. So any combination of those work really well for me. So, you know, go out, give it a try, and hope this video helped you. I'll see you guys in the next video.